Hey guys, Aussie Expat here. Just going for a little stroll. You get a little bit of the nostril cam as mounted on a pram right now. Alright, let's get started. So a few months back I split off my watch content onto a different channel, so if you're looking for that, look for a link down below. That's Aussie Expat Watches. This is in fact the Aussie Expat 2 channel, which I'm probably not going to talk much about watches. So last video was like on liquidity, like what's your net worth made out of and how liquid you are. I saw a few people out there thinking about similar concepts, and it's not too difficult to understand. I mean, can you drop 100k, 1 million, 10 million into your bank account tomorrow? If you can't, what does that say about your wealth? Even if on paper you say your net worth is like 20 million, but you couldn't get $1 into your bank account to save your life in 7 days. That's definitely a precarious position. I'm at the extreme end where almost my entire net worth is available at the drop of a hat, and a lot of people, I imagine, are on the extreme other end where a lot of their investment is actually tied up in houses or something like that. Now, I wanted to talk about sort of an aspect of liquidity which someone mentioned was about basically real wealth is your ability to get credit, which is an interesting concept because while my liquidity doesn't change significantly if you start talking about credit versus literally liquid, can sell and drop that into a bank account. With the ability to get credit, things change as well for a lot of people. So if you've got significant equity in your home, you could have a HELOC, so that's a home equity line of credit. Now you're going to need significant equity in your home to be able to do that, and what that means is you've been paying it off for quite some time. But it can give you access to funds at short notice at an okay interest rate. I think that's really good to set up. Whether or not you use credit is a completely different story. I won't get into that. That's all about risk management and so forth. But I think just having lines of credit available to you and making sure those pathways are open is also another way to look at your liquidity. So as an example, interactive brokers, which is what myself and a lot of my other friends use as a brokerage, have really good margin lending, and you don't just have to use that margin for buying stocks. You can just withdraw it as cash and dropping it, and that has a lot of advantages in terms of you can have your entire portfolio and not have to sell up if you need it quote unquote liquid. This allows you to commit more heavily into a market you're more wanting to commit to, but don't want to have to induce entry and exit costs. Now, typically for stocks, entry and exit costs are marginal, except for if you have the luxury problem of having made a lot of money, then you're going to talk about significant tax implications for selling. And that was something that was brought up in a financial chat that I had with a friend, and that is, it might be nice to say liquidate when you see the market going down, but the reality is the market has only gone down, whatever, 15, 20%, 25%, something like that. But if I liquidated my shares, my tax bill would be way higher than that. So even to this day, net worth calculations, it wouldn't have been smart to sell anything. Now that may change in the future if, say the market drops below 30%, then at that point you would say it would be breaking even with taxes. Some people might say, well, you got to pay taxes eventually sometime anyway. I think on the taxes eventually sometime anyway concept, I think that may not be true. So if IBKR, if you get your portfolio to a certain level, you should be able to just keep lending on margin, never pay the taxes on your accumulated worth. That's how I see it. Now, I'm not retirement planning right now, but I certainly see no need to jump in and start paying taxes on paper earnings. I don't see a need for that at all, especially with the potential out that it may never happen. It may never have to occur that you pay taxes on it. The advantage of stocks is that you can get better lines of credit for stocks than you can home equity loan. Home equity loan, there's going to be conditions and the rate is going to be favorable compared to a credit card, but it's not going to beat the kinds of interest rates you get on stocks. This being said, it's not as risky because with a HELOC, I've never heard of that basically putting someone under, like the house being liquidated because the HELOC annual loan total is sort of underwater. I don't think a bank will ever step in unless you make them step in. While a brokerage account, they will margin call you and sell your assets off to cover the risk. So yeah, these lines of credit are important. Set them up in advance. May be useful to have more than one. So I also have another brokerage account that the rate is just terrible compared to Interactive Broker, but I like the idea of having more than one line of credit on hand at a time, in addition to cash lying around. So it's really valuable to seek what your options are for your lines of credit on all of your assets. So you should be able to get a line of credit on your home. You should be, if you've got significant equity. Now that may not be the case for a lot of people with the declining market. They may have put, say, 20% down 2 years ago. Market's gone down at least 10%, 15%. They're probably in equity by only like 5%. That's not going to get you a HELOC as far as I know. Meanwhile, for a brokerage account, you can get a line of credit on that. There are limits. I think Chase Brokerage, they want to see about 300,000 in assets before they'll give you a line of credit that's a fraction of that, like 60K. Meanwhile, Interactive Broker, I don't think there's a limit, but realistically, you don't want to be playing around with small numbers and withdrawing amounts out. So I would be in favor of saying that you have liquidity and looking at that, looking at your net worth plus liquidity with certain time frames and working out what is meaningful to you. And maybe that meaning comes in the form of like unexpected expenses. Like, is it realistic that you need 50,000 at the drop of a hat, 100,000 at the drop of the hat, 150,000? For me, because I'm interested in like very expensive watches, as example, last week, I had to come up with about $50,000 on the spot, like right now. And I was able to do that with just the straight cash that I have on hand, but that's unrealistic for many. A line of credit would help. The way you would do that is maybe put it all on your credit card, have it sit there for one day and then pay it off. Do not wait for the statement balance on that. I did that once before just because I thought I could, and it was really bad. Like I dropped 30 points on my credit score and that didn't recover for about 7 months. Completely ridiculous, even though it was paid off in the first statement balance. So yeah, I wouldn't consider your credit card any kind of good credit at all. Like if you actually use your credit card, you're going to drop your credit score, which is going to hurt you in other ways down the line for more important lines of credit. So yeah, I now see credit card as more of a payment method than real, how would we say, a line of credit. So do not include credit cards in your lines of credit. It's worthless unless you think taking the credit score hit is worthwhile. I just wouldn't include it. Now that doesn't mean I wouldn't pursue it. As I said, it sort of enables it as a payment method, and that can be important. So I mean, what I did was I put the watch on a credit card. You need a substantial limit to put like a $50,000 watch on a credit card, and then I paid it off that night immediately so that hopefully it doesn't hurt my credit score. I'll let you know when that statement comes in if it did. All right, until next time, see you around.